Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We begin with Allah's blessed name. We praise Him and we glorify Him as He ought to be praised and glorified. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all His noble messengers, including the last of them all, the Blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, as we greet you in 2 to 3 hours south of Lisbon in Portugal, on this, the 13th day of the month of Jumadi al-Ula, with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I want to share with you now a video of my recording of my travels in the Balkan countries during the months of September and October. It was a fascinating period and fascinating travel, fascinating experiences for me. I'm learning more and more about the Balkans. This is not an area that I've visited regularly. This is not an area that I've studied sufficiently. So you'll have to forgive my ignorance if I don't know enough of your history. And I am happy, really happy to inform you that wherever I went in the Balkans, the people welcomed me in a very kind and friendly way. Nowhere in the Balkans, nowhere did I receive any hostile welcome. Nobody ever did that to me. Just one problem, and that was the government which rules over Albania, probably because of their connections with the United States and because of their connections with Israel, which is committing genocide in Gaza. That government found it uncomfortable for me to enter Albania. I'm not surprised, I'm not surprised that they should find discomfort, but not the people of Albania. Not the people of Albania, who all stand up against genocide in Gaza and who admire my profile of scholarship, that I stand up against Israel and I stand up against NATO. So the people of Albania welcomed me in the airport, but I was not allowed to enter Albania. We come back to that in a moment. I traveled from Manchester to Belgrade on the 21st of April. I was supposed to go at the beginning of April. And I had a lecture and a signing of my books in Belgrade on September the 4th and 5th. On the 4th, we were supposed to be launching the book, The Quran and Russia's Destiny, and autographing copies and meeting with people. And on the 5th, we had a hall which was rented out for a lecture, a public lecture on the Quran and Russia's destiny. And we had more than 600 people who had registered to attend that lecture. And then some hidden hands got to work and got the hall to cancel the reservation. And then we had to cancel the lecture. On Judgment Day, we'll know who are the hidden hands who find my scholarship, my profile of scholarship, so terrifying for them that their house of cards might collapse. And so they sabotaged my lecture by getting the hall to cancel. I'm accustomed to this in Britain, where my profile of scholarship drives terror in the hearts of a people who have an inadequate profile of scholarship. They only have the Darul scholarship, and they have masajid, they are the imams and masajid and so on, and they're scared of me. So they banned me, they blocked me, they shut the doors of the masjid on me, they tried to get halls to cancel me and so on. These are a very fragile people. I call them fragile people because they live in a house like a spider's web. It is so fragile. My scholarship is not like that. My scholarship is built on firm foundation like a rock. while theirs is on sand. So I arrived in the Balkans, in Belgrade on the 21st, and my student from Albania, Imam Elvis, he drove all the way from Durrës to Belgrade, and he was there to greet me at the airport together with Safar from Australia. And the next day, the 22nd, I was taken to the University of Belgrade, where I met for the first time in 8 years my dear friend Professor Branko Ravish, who had written the foreword for my book on methodology for the study of the Quran, a professor of law, one of the most famous professors of law in the Balkans. And this man, with a few of his colleagues at the university, we sat down, I don't know, for 2 or 3 hours in the university, planning for me to return to Belgrade and for lecturing at the University of Belgrade. And they wanted me to tell them what was it in my book on the Quran and Russia's destiny. So it was a very, very interesting session with Professor Branco and his colleagues at the university. And from the university, I drove to the headquarters of the program Russia Today. I don't know, it's a website or channel, Russia Today in the Balkans. And Maria, who had interviewed me a few months earlier, but now this time live, Maria interviewed me again. And that interview was placed on my YouTube channel and my website, so you probably have already viewed that video with Maria. And we then went out for dinner that night on the banks of the river Sava, I think it's called, a very nice restaurant. And the next day, we left. We left Belgrade and we drove to Bosnia. And I had no problems in entering Bosnia at all. And we drove to that part of Bosnia in which Srebrenica is located in the, I don't know how to pronounce it, the Republic Srpska, I think they call it. Difficult to pronounce these names. So there's Srebrenica, where the massacre of the Muslims took place, the horrible, 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 no matter if I call it 100 times a horrible massacre, my senseless, ignorant critics who don't know the English language, they cannot digest their food unless I declare it was a genocide. It's so funny. So I went to Srebrenica to pay my respects at the graves of the Shuhada. Shuhada means those who are martyrs, and martyrs go straight to heaven, and those who kill them go to the hellfire. Yes, go to the hellfire. And I call them Shuhada, martyrs. That's what I did. But my critics have wax in their ears, they can't hear me. It's so funny. And I prayed for them, and I showed my respect for them and my honor for them, that they died in that cause in Srebrenica about 30 years ago. It was a very beautiful area that is earmarked for that, commemorate these people, the cemetery. And I am very happy that I got a chance to visit Srebrenica. I did a video at that memorial, and that video is on my YouTube channel. And I hope I'll be able to visit Srebrenica again, inshallah, someday. And from Srebrenica, we drove to Sarajevo, and I was longing for years and years and years and years, longing to visit Sarajevo. My heart was always touched by Sarajevo. And here was I for the first time in my life in Sarajevo, yes. It was a wonderful moment for me. And my host, they gave us an apartment for Elvis and I to stay, a very comfortable apartment. And they would be bringing meals for us and so on. And I had a team with me who were so kind and helpful to me. I had visitors, important visitors coming to visit me at this home in Sarajevo, including the professor of the University of Sarajevo, who is in charge of all the Sufi movements in Bosnia. And this man came to visit me. The next day he had to fly to United States of America. But before he flew to America, he made arrangements for me to be invited to visit one of the most important Sufi centers in Sarajevo, outside of Sarajevo. I spent about 10 days in Sarajevo, and we were able to travel to Mostar, and in Mostar to see that bridge built by the Ottoman Empire. And the professor who came to visit me, he gave me a huge book that he had written, which allowed me to get more knowledge about what the Ottoman Empire had done in respect of calligraphy and the beauty of calligraphy of the Quran. Amazing work by the Ottoman Empire. And then they translated that aesthetics from the Quran to buildings, to the building of a masjid, to the building of a bridge, everything done with aesthetics, with beauty. It is so different from the secular world of construction. Yes. The monotony of secular construction. The beauty of the Ottoman construction is imperishable. So I enjoyed my visit to Mostar and to the river, the green waters of the river, and the beautiful, beautiful bridge. I understand it was damaged during the war, and that was then it was repaired, inshallah. Yeah. But it was terrible to see the huge numbers of tourists. In Mostar, you hardly have space to walk. We couldn't record a video at the bridge. There was just too many people and too much noise. So we had to find a place in the bazaar around the bridge and sit down in the cafeteria and do a recording in Mostar. I didn't get a chance to drive around the town of Mostar. Maybe another time I'll visit Mostar. While I was in Sarajevo, I wanted to go to Tuzla, but I didn't get a chance to go to Tuzla. Maybe another time. But my host took me all around Sarajevo. All around Sarajevo. We went to the cemetery where the President Alija Izetbegovic is buried, and I recorded a video at his grave. They took me to the place where the Bosnia River originates. It's a very beautiful place. But when we wanted to enter, there's a small fee for entry, no problem with that. But because we wanted to record a video there, they were charging us a huge amount in euros, and we couldn't afford it, so we could not go inside. So I was not allowed to see where the Bosnia River begins. And we went to the place where Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in the summer of 1914. And I was able to record a video at that place where he was assassinated. We went to the Roman Catholic Cathedral, and we sat in a cafeteria with the cathedral at the back and did a video there. We went to the masjid. I can't remember now the name of the masjid, close by walking distance. And I was able to perform my salat Zuhr in the masjid and do a recording next door to the masjid. And while I was there, I was surrounded by a group of tourists from Durban in South Africa who all recognized me. And we did a recording in the courtyard of the masjid. And while walking around, people were recognizing me. And whenever someone recognized me, they all came forward to greet me, and they were all full of love and friendship and kindness. No one was hostile to me, and that was such a good sign. Because I have criticized the Ottoman Empire for things that the Ottoman Empire did which were wrong. And I am correct in doing that. But some people don't want the Ottoman Empire to be criticized in any way. And therefore they are critical of mine. And after spending 10 days in Sarajevo, 10 wonderful, beautiful days, I look forward to returning to Sarajevo and spending a long period of time. I realized that the people of Bosnia, the Muslims of Bosnia, did not want eternal hatred and hostility and enmity between them and the Orthodox Christians of Serbia. And I therefore had to say to them, if you say that Srebrenica was a genocide, if you insist that Srebrenica was a genocide, if you obstinately insist that Srebrenica was a genocide, then this is the implication. The implication, whether you know it or you don't, whether you accept it or you don't, is irrelevant. The implication I am telling you is eternal hatred between the two people. But nobody in Bosnia, thus no one said we want eternal hatred. It is only Dajjal's sons and daughters who have nothing in their head but peanuts. They are the only ones who want eternal hatred and enmity between Muslims and Christians because they are serving shaitan. They're serving their puppy dogs of NATO, but not the rest of the Muslims. They said, no, we don't want eternal friendship, hatred between us and the Christians. I said, well, if you say that it was genocide, whether you understand it or you don't, if you say Srebrenica was genocide, that is the implication. So go ahead and call it genocide if that is what you want. If that is what you want. So I was very pleased and happy to see how many Muslims I met who says, no, we prefer to have reconciliation and friendship with our Christian brothers. And so I have now realized that the plan for the future is that the two people who believe that Nabi Isa alayhi salam was the Messiah, that he came and he left and that he will return. These two people who are Christians and Muslims, Orthodox and Muslims, these two people must come together to prepare the way for the return of the Messiah. No one can differ with me. No one can possibly differ with me. Not even the governments, not even the misguided governments can differ with me. I am on solid foundations when I say that the two people who believe that Nabi Isa alayhi salam, Jesus the Messiah, Allah's blessing be upon him, would one day return. These two people must come together to prepare for his return. And coming together means coming together to cooperate with each other and therefore friendship and reconciliation. And so the implication is that Bosnia and Serbia must reconcile. The fact that we now have an independent state called Bosnia, that independent state of Bosnia makes it easier. This is why I argued my case in Serbia, in Belgrade. I argued and said to them, it is now easier because Bosnia is an independent state. It is now easier to bring about reconciliation between Bosnia and Serbia, between Muslims and Orthodox Christians. Maybe in a federal republic, a unitary state, a federal republic in which each unit of the federation, Bosnia and Serbia, have political equality, and each will maintain its own military and protect its security. So there's no insecurity. And so we are going to work, inshallah, for the remaining years of my life towards this union of Bosnia and Serbia in a federal state in which each unit of the federation would have political equality with the other. Others may look at that and say, that's a pipe dream. Ah, yes. But they don't remember that when Musa alayhi salam was approaching the Red Sea, they would say, that's a pipe dream that you could ever escape from Pharaoh. But Allah can do what Allah wants to do. And Allah caused Musa alayhi salam to strike the water. And a miracle occurred. And the water parted and they were able to cross the Red Sea. And when Pharaoh and his army attempted to cross, the waters came down and they were all drowned. So you may say it's impossible to have a political union of Bosnia and Serbia. I say to all things are possible with Allah. I then left Sarajevo and I drove with Elvis to Sofia in time for the next day was Salatul Jummah. And the Grand Masjid of Sofia, not sufficiently big, probably it could hold 500 people, and it felt as though there were 5,000 in the masjid. No space at all. It was cold outside, so people wanted to be inside. And I made the mistake of sitting close to the entrance, so it was terrible. It was terrible. They need a much bigger masjid in Sofia. And after the Salatul Jummah in Sofia, we drove to Smolyan in the south of Bulgaria, close to the border with Greece. I had visited Smolyan once before, and this was my second visit, and I was able to conduct classes. I had imams who were present in my classes, and one of them was Imam Hafiz of the Quran. And we had classes maybe for maybe 1 week, and I enjoyed being able to teach them. It was wonderful when a teacher got a chance to teach bright students. And these were bright students I had in Bulgaria, in Smolyan. And after 1 week in Smolyan, or maybe 10 days, we then drove to Romania. The first time I'm visiting Romania, Bucharest. And I realized that the word is not Bucharest. That is a nickname given by the British, I believe. It is Bucharesti. And in order to reach Bucharesti, we had to cross the Danube River, the longest river in Europe. It was a huge bridge over the river and the green-blue waters of the Danube. I was astonished to look at the Danube River. When we arrived in Bucharesti, I had a session in the hotel where I was staying. We got a room in the hotel, and we had a small gathering that same evening. And there was a Romanian scholar who was present. That man was very learned. And I was able to give him a presentation of the Quran he never heard of before. The next day I went to the University of Bucharest, and I was invited to meet with professors in the University of Bucharest, the Faculty of Theology. And I was amazed how many Romanian Christians have such a tremendous thirst for knowledge of theology. You don't find this in the Western world at all. These are people who love their religion and who want to study their religion. So the faculty of theology was bustling with busyness. And I met with the professors. There was one professor who was a retired professor who was older than me, and I was amazed by that man's knowledge. He even taught me something of the Quran I did not know before. And he asked me many questions. And at the end of it, he came to the conclusion, he said, your profile of Islamic scholarship is different from that of traditional Islamic scholarship. And he was correct about that. And then they took me from the office where I met with the professor. That meeting took place about 2 to 3 hours long. Then they took me to the auditorium where the students were all assembled waiting for me. And the auditorium was almost packed. It was a small auditorium, and there may have been about between 100 and 150 students there waiting for me. And these are students are now listening to a scholar of Islam. And the Ottoman Empire had ruled over Romania. At that time, it was called Wallachia, and another name, but it was not called Romania at that time. And the Ottoman Empire ruled over them for many centuries. And these are people who sought their freedom from Ottoman rule, and eventually they were able to win their freedom. And despite the oppression that they had faced from an Ottoman Empire, which was Islam and Muslim, yet when I finished my lecture in that auditorium, the entire auditorium responded with loud applause. They were comfortable with my lecture. They were happy to receive me, and they responded to my lecture in very, very positive way. And that is a good sign that when you take the Quran to an Orthodox Christian people and you tell them what is in the Quran about them, they respond positively. I also went to the mausoleum or the grave where a prince of Romania who had fallen out with the Ottoman Empire and was arrested, and he and his sons were condemned to death in Constantinople. But the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire offered him a deal that if you convert to Islam, then you will not be executed. Your life will be saved. And the king, the prince, and all his sons, the last one was only 12 years of age, preferred to die rather than to abandon their faith as Christians. And I went to where the place where he was buried to respect him and to honor him. But it was wrong. It was wrong. It was a violation of Allah's command in the Quran to give a Christian this offer. Either you die or you become a Muslim. Because the Quran says, and apparently the Ottoman Empire may not have been aware of it, that there is no compulsion in religion. There is no compulsion in religion. There is no compulsion in religion. So you cannot offer someone either you die or you become a Muslim. That is wrong, that is false, that is wicked, and that must be condemned without regard for consequences. So I went to his grave, to his mausoleum, to show my respects for him, and I did a video which is on my YouTube channel. I then went the next day to Constantia, which is on the coast, the Black Sea coast. And it's a historic city. And for the first time in my life, I'm seeing the Black Sea. And yes, indeed, the water is dark blue. The water is dark blue in the Black Sea. And because the Black Sea in the Quran, the Black Sea is in the Quran, this was something for me a historic moment in my life. I also visited the masjid built by the king, the Orthodox Christian King Carol. He made an agreement with the Sultan in Constantinople that if the Sultan will build a Christian cathedral in Constantinople, he'll build a masjid. And they designed the masjid would be something like a cathedral. Yes. And it was wonderful for me to go into that masjid and perform my salat and to view this beautiful masjid built by a Christian king. And then from Romania, I flew back to Belgrade. And in Belgrade, there were so many interviews, and then so many meetings with scholars. And then there was a lecture at the University of Belgrade, where I've lectured twice before on the Quran and Russia's destiny. And the auditorium was packed, was packed, was packed. People were standing in their aisles. There was no place to sit. A massive audience. And I lectured for about 1 hour, and at the end of my lecture, there was loud and prolonged applause. The audience, which was 99% Orthodox Christian, received my lecture with so much enthusiasm and love and respect and friendship. And that is a good sign for the future. There are those, of course, my critics, nothing will satisfy them. They don't want to see any possibility of reconciliation, friendship, and alliance between our two people. But they are the minority. And the majority, you can see the way the Christians responded to my lecture at the University of Belgrade, at the University of Bucharest. They responded with love, with affection, and they all want to see this reconciliation between our two peoples. I then left Belgrade and I flew to Tirana in Albania, where I was going to meet with my students privately in a simple room, no public lectures, as I did I went to Albania maybe 3 or 4 times already. I never had any problem. But this time when I arrived, they kept me waiting at the airport. They took my passport. And after several hours, then I was informed that I will not be allowed to enter Albania. They did not tell me why. They just gave me a document to sign. And in that document, of course, it's in Albanian, it's unethical to ask a man to sign a document he cannot read. It is unethical to ask a man to sign a document he cannot read. But I don't think they cared for ethics. They asked me to sign that document. And then when I said I can't understand it in Albanian, they showed me a few words in English. They pointed where it says that my name is on some list of people not allowed to enter the country. Well, how come I entered so many times in the past? I then spent a horrible night in the departure lounge of the airport. I could not sleep all night at the age of 85 and constantly traveling for so long, tired, and I'm all alone. I don't even have my wife with me. And the Albanian immigration officers were kind to me. Yes, they showed, and they were profoundly embarrassed by the way the government behaved. They were embarrassed the way I was being treated, and they were sorry for me, and they showed kindness to me. None of them showed any bad face to me. I asked whether I could be taken to the musalla, the prayer room, and one of them took me there, and he took my baggage with my carry-on. And in the musalla, people were recognizing me, and I ended up ended up having given two lectures in the Musalla. Two lectures in the Musalla. I was asked to return to the immigration at 11 in the night, and when I returned there, then I had to lie down on a couple chairs, trying to get some sleep, and the immigration officers had passed by and looked at me sorrowfully. Sorrowfully, yes. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, they put me on a flight. I said, "Will my baggage be going with me?" They said, "Yes." I asked, "Will my baggage be going with me?" They said, "If it doesn't go, you'll wait for 2, 3 days." And then they sent me back to Belgrade. When I went to Belgrade, I hardly had any clothes in my carry-on. I had to wear the same suit of clothing for 6 days. Until the baggage actually came to Belgrade. But during those 6 days in Belgrade, Allah works His way. I was able to meet with many important people. I had interviews, several interviews in Belgrade. I forgot to mention that I also met with the head of the Serbian Orthodox Church in Belgrade. I had a meeting with him which lasted more than 1 hour. And he was very happy when he heard about my plans with trying to foster a union of Bosnia and Serbia in a federal republic, with each unit of the federation having political equality with the other, and each unit having its own military. And he warned me, he said that you're going to have difficulties, but this is a wonderful thing you're doing. And then I left Bulgaria when I got my baggage, and I flew to Lisbon, where I'm now enjoying a few days of rest. I took a long time to tell you this story about my travels in the Balkans, and I will have to return to the Balkans again and again in the remaining years of my life. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.